Yeah, I'm going to delve right into it today. I'm really trying to keep my videos 10 minutes and under. And this is a video that I have kind of had in the back of my mind for a long time. And I feel like a lot of people in my audience will appreciate this because I know that I have a lot of industrial dorks in my audience. I am one of those industrial dorks. And this is one of those albums that I feel, or even bands generally, that isn't well known. Like sometimes when I mention Pankow, and I'm talking about Pankow, obviously, I'll mention Pankow to people who even like this type of music, and they've never even heard of them, much less this album. So I feel like if this can bring awareness to this band and this album in any way, then cool. Because I really like this group. Sorry, I'm turning my phone off right now. I really like this group. I think they're underrated for sure. And a few of you have already mentioned this in the past regarding underappreciated industrial albums and bands. And I think this is absolutely one of them. Now, I don't always show physical media, as you know, but I am going to show these a couple of records because I've been recording these into my digital archives. I just pulled these out of my archives recently, and I have been recording these. In fact, I just recorded this, so it's fresh in my mind. Gisela or Gisela, I don't know. I don't care how you say it. I don't think it matters. Quick side note rant here, by the way, people. If I get something off, like if I mention an album and it came out in a certain year and I get it wrong by like a year, I don't care. The second anyone corrects me because I'm off by a year or I didn't recite the credits by rote, by memory, I'm gonna not only delete your comment, but maybe just kick you off my channel. I don't care. All right. When you put all the time and effort into making a video and then somebody watches it and the one comment they make is one tiny little infinitesimal error you made, you start to get on my nerves at that point. So just shut up and save your OCD weirdness to yourself. If I'm off by a year, nobody cares. Please remember this. Thank you very much. These records I'm going to show all came out in 1989, at least here in the United States. If you have a version that came out in another year, I don't want to hear about it. I don't care. These all came out in 1989. Every record I'm going to show came out on Wax Trax Records here in the United States. And we love Wax Trax, don't we? But this is Pankow, Gisela. I say it Gisela because that's the way I want to say it. And look at this cover, by the way. Right away, my initial memories with this album was this cover. I remember seeing this being like, holy shit. I need to hear this. And I don't know if this was my intro to Pankow or not. I feel like Me and My Ding Dong was my intro to them, but it might have been this, and Me and My Ding Dong is on here, but Me and My Ding Dong came out as a 12-inch, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is a fantastic record. Pankow was an Italian group, and I don't know if they're still around. Are they still around? But what I liked about Pankow is they had their own thing. They had their own sound. Like you could put them in the industrial category. But I think what's cool about industrial music, particularly in the 80s, and in my humble opinion, industrial music has hit a major wall over the last 30 years. I don't know what honestly, and I know I'm going to take a lot of shit from this about this from my people that watch my channel, but I don't really listen to new industrial music at all anymore. I don't get it. I think industrial is completely derivative of itself over the last 30 years. I don't know. Industrial music has always been a genre tag that indicates a band trying to push things forward, trying to do something new, trying to do interesting stuff, trying to pave a new pathway into a new frontier to some degree. I haven't heard that at all in the industrial realm for 30 plus years. I would challenge anybody to give me a truly unique industrial record that's been released in the last 30 years. And I know some of you are going to say Nine Inch Nails or whatever, Frontline Assembly. I do like Frontline Assembly enough, but I'm not a huge fan of Frontline Assembly. I'll just say it. A lot of you really love Frontline Assembly. I've never been one of those people. I think he did some cool stuff in the 80s, but I haven't heard a single interesting Frontline Assembly album in 30 years. There, I said it. Industrial music was about paving new boundaries, you know, it's about taking chances and risks. I haven't heard any of that in 30 plus years. And Nine Inch Nails, please, give me a break. Nothing Trent Reznor has done ever it resides in the industrial realm. And I will maintain that argument. When I did my Meat Beat videos, I took a lot of shit for not liking Nine Inch Nails, and I'll take more shit now, but I don't care. Trent Reznor wishes he was industrial. You know, he made electronic cock rock. You cannot tell me that Downward Spiral is industrial and then listen to this and tell me this is industrial. No. So I know I'm getting off on a bit of a side tangent there, but I don't think industrial music is all that interesting anymore. I don't think it's been interesting for a very long time. A lot of you have been trying to get me to listen to that new Cyberactive album, and honestly, guys, I don't want to do it. I never really liked Cyberactive, to be honest. To me, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's industrial music, as they call it, has just become, you know, cheap computer disco sample music with growling vocals over the top. That's not industrial, not to me. There's nothing interesting about that. Maybe in the 80s, when it was a new sound, when it was new, when it was representing an intriguing, interesting, unique thing, movement. But if you're still aping that sound 30 years later, is it that hardcore? Is it that forward pushing? I don't think it is. I think albums like this still sound good. I think this album, Gisela, still sounds way more cutting edge than any shit that I've heard in the last 30 years. Why is that? Because it came out in 1989. Nobody sounded like this. So those of you who are, you know, repeatedly listening to your Frontline Assembly and your Cyberactive, I would highly recommend you check this out if you've never heard it. And if you've only heard it a few times, go listen to it again. This music is extremely unique. I think that's why it transcends any genre tags like industrial or whatever. It's unique. And when an album is unique, it's timeless. And I do think this album is timeless. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today. And I think it's important to compare. I know I'm kind of getting off the beaten path, or it might appear that I'm getting off the beaten path here. But I think it's important to mention the things that have happened after this, because I see a lot of records that people deem industrial that are, you know, in the pantheon of great industrial records that all came after stuff like this. But I think this is one of the best industrial records I've ever heard because it's just unique. It doesn't sound like anything else. I mean, that was the whole ethic behind it, behind industrial music in the first place, is to take chances, take risks. I don't hear that happening with any industrial music. I see bands doing reunion tours and going to concert venues and doing these big shows and you know, pulling out all of their old material, and there's nothing cutting edge about that. Sorry guys, nothing. Cutting edge exists right here. Look no further on a 35-year-old record like we have here. Gisela is a fantastic record too. I think it's aged very well. There's the track list, and kind of hard to see. It almost reads like a Samuel Beckett novel there. No paragraphs. It's all crammed onto one slab of text. I do believe, I'm trying to remember, I think, who produced, was it Rico Conning? I know Adrian Sherwood's on here. Rico Conning did some mixing, and there he is, mixed by Rico Conning, mixed by Adrian Sherwood. So you get a combination of Adrian Sherwood, which, for God's sakes, if you don't know him, then you shouldn't even be watching this video, and Rico Conning, who was someone who was employed by a lot of these types of bands back then. This is a really cool record. It doesn't really all work, but because it sounds so unique, it works in that way. Some of the songs are much weaker than others. But as an album, this flows really nicely. It's a very fluid experience. I'm Lost Little Girl, great song. Happy as the Horse is Shite. They had a great sense of humor, these guys. But they're very political, They had a very biting sound, a very biting lyrical edge. They just were a very biting band. I mean, look at this. How biting is that? Everything about them is biting. Pankow, Gisela. And I will show, here's the inner sleeve. This is the US edition. Wax Trax Records, like I said, you get the lyrics. I'll show you the label really quickly. You get more of that haunting little face. That little face kind of looks like that little girl that was in that movie Hereditary. I've already talked about my feelings on that movie. No thanks. And not because I was scared, because I was bored. But this is a music video. This is not a film video. I do my film videos, and you're welcome to watch those. I hope you do. I'm not a fan of Hereditary. I'm just not a fan of boring things, people. Boring movies and boring records. This is not boring. This is a really good record. These are a couple of things that I just pulled out. This is on Wax Trax too. This is kind of like a compilation EP. It took some tracks from European releases and wedged them all onto this US EP on Wax Trax, like Wet. And Warm Leatherette, that's Daniel Miller's old normal track. We all know Warm Leatherette. In fact, I would argue this is the greatest cover version of that song. That song's been covered countless times. This is my favorite cover of that, Pankow's version. And excellent EP. I think if you like Gisela, here's some labels for you. Really cool imagery too, spooky. Look at that little demon gargoyle face. I really like, this is something that kind of is missing from industrial records too. There's the Wax Trax insert, by the way. Those of you who ever bought Wax Trax records, you know what I'm talking about. You got your little catalog in there. Something that I miss about 80s industrial is this kind of imagery. I don't know that you see that. I mean, you see haunting imagery on plenty of album covers, but back before the internet and back before you could research everything instantly, you'd go into a record shop and you were confronted with covers like this or covers like this. And you're like, holy shit, what is this? Like, just looking at the covers made you really interested and intrigued to hear the music. It's like, if the music can fit these weird covers, then I'm sold. And in this case, the covers absolutely fit the music. And here's show you their dongs, as they call it, me and my ding dong. And there's Rico Conning again. He did a lot of dancey stuff. And I think he's a big reason, I think, why I probably like this Pankow album and this Pankow era the best. Rico Conning brought something out of Pankow. He kind of disco-fied them. They still have that really, that harder core industrial edge to them. But then he came in and he put a disco slant to it. And it served Pankow well. This is a fantastic single. There's that Wax Trax catalog. I've had this since it was new. As you can see, I still have it in the shrink wrap. Mine, I think I've only played this a couple times in its whole existence. There's some labels for you. Really like that image too. Very cool image. This is the Me and My Ding Dong US Wax Trax single. And there's some fun text on the back of the record too. Show that to you really quickly. Don't give bullshit. It's one of those things I just always have tucked away in my memory banks when I first saw this record. Don't give bullshit. What does that mean? It's fascinating. I'm gonna miss you so bad. Yeah, this is Me and My Ding Dong, man. This is one of those songs. When I first became a DJ in the late 80s, I was too young to get into a 21 and over club. I started DJing at an underage club here in Portland, Oregon. And this was one of those tracks that when I put Me and My Ding Dong on, it would crush. The dance floor would just be lit on fire. It was one of those songs that everybody knew and everybody loved. The second you heard that melody kick in, that dun 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 dun, like people would lose their shit. Everyone would flock to the dance floor. Great memories of this song and this 12-inch. Love these guys. I'm going to keep it at that. keep this relatively short. I wanted to keep it under 10 minutes, but I did get on my little rant about modern industrial music. I'm sure that'll piss plenty of you off, but it's just my opinion. I don't think industrial music has really done anything of note in 30 years, 30 years plus. I just think that it's become kind of a tired, boring old genre where people, make safe decisions and do safe things that are proven to work. And to me, that's not what industrial music was supposed to be when it started. It was about pissing people off and being risky. I haven't seen that in a long time with industrial music. Do you agree? Something tells me that you won't agree. I don't really care, but feel free to comment because I always love hearing your comments, even when you're wrong. I'm kidding, people. It's an opinion. Take it easy, man. Don't take yourself so seriously. Let me know your comments, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.